Football Show. My name is Danny Heifetz, and I'm joined by Danny Kelly and Craig Horlbeck. And today we are doing sleepers, baby. Training camp is in almost kind of full swing.
Yeah.
But first, we have to get to the list of things that have happened since we last recorded. Unlike last time we did this when we had a 2-week vacation, now it's been like 5 days, and yet the following things have happened. Rashee Rice, the receiver on the Chiefs, was sentenced to 30 days of jail time. Jordan Addison, the receiver on the Minnesota Vikings, pleaded no contest to something called wet reckless. The Lions already down.
That was my nickname in college.
Yeah, that's goddamn right it was.
I was going to say that, Craig.
I was wondering
Stole my joke.
Jump in on that. The Lions are somehow down almost like 6 players already, even though it's July 21st. I don't know how that's possible. Von Miller signed with Washington for $6 million. And speaking of Washington, Donald Trump said he may try to block the Washington franchise from getting their new stadium in D.C. unless they change the name of the team back to the Redskins, which, you know, if we're being honest, you know, maybe Trump wanted to divert attention away from, don't worry about it. Coldplay, the concert thing happened with Coldplay.
Oh my God, this has been everywhere.
The Coldplay thing happened, which I actually think may have reset the record for the social media thing that spanned all age groups and demographics in terms of everybody
Globally.
saw it.
Yeah.
People in their 80s I talked to
It
knew
was
about
my
the Coldplay thing.
entire timeline for like 48 hours.
Unbelievable. It was just that and, another thing happening. That was the only 2 things happening. TJ Watt signed a 3-year deal worth $41 million a year, allegedly $41 million guaranteed per year. George Karlaftis for the Chiefs signed a deal for $30 million per. Will Levis, who I forgot about, on the Titans, Will Levis is getting shoulder surgery and is out the entire season. So Will Levis is not even going to be backing up Cam Ward this year. All the second rounders who were holding out are signing their contracts, except for Shamar Stewart, the Bengals first rounder, who is not at training camp. And the Bengals owner said the reason was, quote, silliness. Funniest of all, NFLPA Executive Director Lloyd Howell and NFLPA Chief Strategy Officer J.C. Tretter are both resigning, which comes after Pablo Torre's podcast, and ESPN had a bunch of reporting, which blah, 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 malfeasance, a lot of shady dealings, but mostly Lloyd Howell expensed like $3,000 of strippers to the union, even though he was making $3 million at the time.
We have to change our New York plans now. But
I know, God, ruining it for everyone, Lloyd. Jeez. But the most important thing of all is not only did we bring back the full intro music by popular demand, because all of you screamed at us, and I actually feel bullied about
We folded big time.
We didn't get to 10,000 on YouTube.
we're close.
We're close. Please go subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We're over 8K.
Yeah. But we went to the lab. We feel bad, frankly. We feel bad that we changed the intro music, which frankly is the best part of the podcast. It's really all downhill once we start speaking. But we now have the intro. If you haven't watched it, it's on Spotify. You can watch it. YouTube. You can watch the intro. I'm not going to lie. It's pretty great. Shout out John Richter who made
we have a new intro graphic as well, which kind of references the 90s screensaver era, the early aughts screensaver era. And it's great. So thank you.
It's always like
John
on in the
Richter.
background of parties.
Yeah.
We were basically like, what's the most epic thing you can see on a screen? And we were like, honestly, the most electric I've ever felt in my entire life is when the little screensaver
Trying
on
to
Microsoft
get it go
would
right
hit
to
the
the corner. Yeah.
And we were like, that should be it. And we were joking. We were like, what if we made it that?
Everyone's like cheering for it to hit the corner.
Yeah. So, thrilled about that. But yeah, so a lot has happened. Shout out to the Zack Snyder truther people who basically got us to bring the full intro music back. Thank you. I want to go through some of the news I just listed. We should probably start with the receivers, right? Rashee Rice and Jordan Addison, who both just, should drive less, frankly.
Uber.
Waymo.
Uber.
Lyft, even.
Yeah, do whatever. Call taxis.
Taxis are still around.
Taxis still exist.
Run. You're an NFL player.
You're an athlete.
Honestly, well, dude, especially the Jordan Addison one. Jordan Addison's case goes back to he was in Los Angeles for the Netflix premiere of Receiver last year, and he went to USC, so obviously knows people in Los Angeles. And Jordan Addison, I mean, this is a cop, an LA cop, basically found Jordan Addison asleep at his white Rolls Royce in the middle of a road, like he's just asleep in the road.
I don't mean to laugh,
look.
but that's tough.
It is. It's fucked up, but it's kind of funny. Like you're just asleep in a car. Yeah. So it's the actual charge. I guess we'll start with that in here. The actual charge is it's reckless driving with the involvement of alcohol, which I guess in the legal world they just call wet reckless, which is basically they can't prove he did a DUI, but they also can't really accept the fact that there's no alcohol involved in the charge.
The involvement of alcohol sounds kind of like when Rodgers was like, I've been immunized.
Yeah, involvement of alcohol.
So passive.
Craig, did you drink tonight? I'm like, I was involved with alcohol. Yeah, there was involvement.
It's unbelievable. So yeah, shout out. First of all, I want to shout out to Drew Davenport, who works at Football Guys. He's a defense attorney who does fantasy football stuff as well. And I'm not gonna lie, he's by far the best person at figuring out the legal cases for these people, especially Rashee Rice, is actually very complicated. It's hard to figure out how the court system works. And so he's the best person at figuring out how that translates from one opaque legal system to another one, which is the NFL conduct policy. So I'm going to basically summarize what Drew Davenport has said about this, but he's the best person on this subject. So for Jordan Addison, long story short, the actual legal outcome is 12 months of probation, $390 fine, which I think that's such a funny number. Like I don't know, you can't get $400 out of Jordan Addison. $390? Where does that come from? That's unbelievable.
I think it should be way more than that.
I had to bail a friend out of jail once, and they charged me $68.25. And I was just like, you could round up. Like,
that's
fine.
Yeah,
quarter. Yeah, they had to do it in cash. Like, we had to have the quarter.
I don't know. Who's got a quarter?
Who has a quarter? I know. Yeah. It's just around $390 is unbelievable. But anyway, in terms of the actual season, because Jordan Addison and Rashee Rice, I think we thought these cases would get pushed, and then they both were settled in a way that Jordan Addison and Rashee Rice are probably get suspended this year. So for Jordan Addison, long story short, it's probably going to be a 3-game suspension with the chance to reduce it to a 2-game suspension if he's very, 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 very sorry. So that is basically, so Jordan Addison, I think probably 2 to 3 games is the most likely outcome, which, we'll dock him probably like a round, if he's definitely going to miss 3 games. That is, it's not a ton, but it is like, almost a month. So Jordan, and then Rashee Rice, the situation's a little different. And again, he was going 119 miles an hour in a Lamborghini SUV, and then there was a massive crash, and people have probably seen videos of it. But Rashee Rice was sentenced to 30 days of jail time, 5-year probation. He can serve the 30 days in jail at any period over a 5-year period. He could just do 30 days, which is, it's kind of funny to think, what month would you go to jail for over your next 5 years? But
January.
Yeah.
Well, what if he's in the playoffs?
February.
I'd say go
March.
May. Yeah.
May's a nice month, though.
No, March. Go March.
Sure. Depends where you live.
Can I just say, Lamborghini SUV, kind of an ick.
Right.
Well,
I had the same thought, Craig.
Lose the SUV, just Lamborghini.
Jordan Addison, the year before that, 2023, was also going, I want to make sure I get this right. Jordan Addison he also had a Lamborghini. He was going 140 and a 55.
Right.
And then Rashee Rice had the Lamborghini SUV. It's like, yeah.
The problem, I see a common denominator here. We need to get rid of Lamborghinis.
Yeah.
They're too cool. They're too fucking cool.
Too cool.
Just think, if there were only minivans, would people really be speeding? Stop making cool cars.
Nothing more than 4 cylinders.
No more cool cars. They all look like soccer mom vans. That's
Craig,
it.
this goes to your best recent take, which is hot people should stop making music.
Yeah,
because they
let
have
the
no
ugly
adversity
sing. They have more to say.
And we should only have ugly cars.
Ugly cars with ugly people singing in them.
Yeah, that's the dream. And then, so Rashee Rice, again, shout out Drew Davenport, who's the best person on this. It sounds like he'll be suspended 3 to 4 games with a chance that it's 2 games and a chance it's 5 or 6. But Rashee Rice is probably 3 to 4. Jordan Addison's probably 2 or 3. Don't go 140 and a 55. Don't drink and drive. Don't do any of those things. For fantasy purposes, which is always the most awkward pivot of all.
Most importantly, what does it mean for my fantasy team?
Most importantly, what does it mean for where I should draft Rashee Rice? DK, how does this news impact where you want to take Rashee Rice? Again, the most important part of this whole story.
It pushes it down a little.
Sick.
I mean, I think he'd been gassed up pretty high in drafts lately, and I hadn't been following like the actual legal proceedings super closely, but this felt like one of those Supreme Court rulings that comes on like Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, shadow docket out of nowhere.
You're like, where'd this come from? I didn't even know they were talking about it. Some judge just decided to like fucking open up that book and read it and be, we'll give him 30 days. Anyway, yeah, I think this pushes him down slightly, but it's not, it's not a super long-term suspension. So I don't think it's going to make like that huge of a difference, but yeah, I would push him down because he was getting pushed up into like middle of the second round even. How do you guys react to this?
I would say, honestly, I think this almost makes him, this is kind of funny, but it's like, I'm kind of more into drafting him now.
Yeah.
Because I think that kind of like.
You gotta make money off of this.
When you're in a draft with your friends and you see the SUSP for suspended, that sticker shock hits really hard. And when somebody misses the first 2 to 4 games of the season, those are like the least important periods of the fantasy season. Like there's no buys. Everyone's in theory the healthiest they will be. So like you have a lot of options to replace Rashee Rice or Jordan Addison in that span. If he were to miss December, that's a completely different story. But I'm kind of like, if you can get Rashee Rice around later now, put in a couple guys you drafted a little bit later to replace him in the 3 to 4 weeks he's out, I actually don't think it's a terrible pick.
Yeah.
And I think we'll probably have a better idea. Honestly, it's funny because it's July 21st. I think for some of the guys we're going to talk about, we're going to have more information just about camp battles, health, all this stuff as we get closer. But these situations, the suspensions really might come down the Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday before the season begins. So you might actually draft without knowing the exact length of the suspensions. But yeah, I think Craig's right. You look at this charge that Rashee Rice pled guilty to, collision involving serious bodily injury, and you're like, gotta make money off this.
Right. I actually came away more impressed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but no, I agree overall. I think Rashee Rice, I'm torn because on one hand, he is coming off that tough knee injury. Where
is it bad? My brain also jumped to another month to rest the knee. That did cross my mind.
Yes.
It crossed my mind just for fantasy only. Again, the point of the show is to give fantasy advice. That is what ran through my head. Is he gonna be in jail that month, Rashee Rice?
No, because he can pick which 30-day period he wants to serve.
Serving his NFL suspension.
You
can't double dip that.
I can't double dip.
Well, no, the Chiefs. The Chiefs, because they kept pushing the Rashee Rice legal case, and the NFL doesn't settle anything till the legal case isn't done,
right?
Or they're like the criminal proceedings at least. And when Rashee Rice tore his. Where he didn't.
Right. They were like, suspend him now.
Right.
Yeah, no, the Chiefs were like, do you want to do the suspension now? And the NFL was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Get out
just
of here.
asking.
Yeah, that's honestly what happened.
They're like, hey, our job is to win football games, all right?
Yeah.
That's it.
So, okay. And then Jordan Addison, I think you bumped down half a round or whatever. I mean, 3 games, it's like, it doesn't really change what you think about Jordan Addison, but also, it's 3 games. So
this is neither here nor there, but I always kind of find it funny that you get scheduled to go serve jail time. Like, I could go serve jail time in any time in the next 5 years. That's very weird to me.
I know.
How do you let him know?
Maybe we shouldn't go down that road, but
wandering down a dark road here.
Yeah, I know. I'm like,
jeez,
let's not open up Pandora's box on the American legal system. But yeah, I think it's just like, I think I'll go during spring break of my junior year or whatever. It's just like bizarre. Like why don't they just, I guess it's because of overcrowding, which again, let's not go down that road. But
no, let's do it.
Let's solve this right here.
You know what? Fuck sleepers. We're going to get into this.
Anyway, that's enough. We can continue.
Top 6 biggest qualms with the American legal system.
Sure.
Heifetz, go.
Oh, man. That's a great call. I was told that if I wanted to get a jury duty, you just say that, you don't believe in testimony as a concept. So
Interesting. I like that. My dad's a cop, so I feel like I don't usually have a problem with that. I always get out.
What, with getting in trouble?
No, jury duty. They don't want sons of cops.
Ah, right. Biased.
Yeah, we should keep going down this road. We're doing great. We're doing fantastic.
I'm sorry.
Everyone listening is like, this is going so well. Other people where it's going really, really poorly. The Detroit Lions. I can't believe the Lions season has started this way. So
they'll be fine. Right?
Dude. You know what's so funny? David Montgomery, the running back, said that this is like their year of reckoning. He was like, it's nice to get close, but like you can't get used to getting close. Like this is our year of reckoning. It's now or never.
Yeah.
And then immediately everyone's hurt already. And all the important players from last year. Alex Anzalone is the linebacker who's like the communication guy on defense. Aleem McNeil, like defensive tackle, is their second best D lineman, I think was expected to not start the year in week 1. Dan Campbell, only honest coach. But then Taylor Decker is a tackle. And I think even for fantasy purposes, you're now talking about Penei Sewell, who's like probably the best right tackle in the NFL. At worst, is the second best after Lane Johnson. But then you have Taylor Decker, who, I mean, it sounds like he won't be 100%, at least for the beginning of the season, if he plays in the beginning of the season. And now you have a left guard that's going from Kevin Zeitler to Christian Mahogany, who we thought was made up person. You have a center going from Frank Ragnow, who's like a grizzled NFL vet, to like a rookie, and Tate Ratledge or someone else who will play center. And then you have your right guard, Graham Glasgow, who's fine. He's the fine one of the group, kind of like the Eagles right guard's the fine one of the group. And suddenly the Lions offensive line, you're looking at it and you're like, damn, this went from a great unit to, is this like the Niners where it's Trent Williams, one great tackle and like 4 guys who are fine? Which really changes how you look at the Lions, especially with the 7 coaches that have departed. Like, does it bother you, Craig?
100%. I mean, losing 7 coaches, your offensive and defensive coordinator, you have a 6th-round draft pick and a rookie on the offensive line now. It's, you're not starting off the best.
DK, does this give you any pause about Jahmyr Gibbs as a some people have Jahmyr Gibbs number one. Smart people who I respect have Jahmyr Gibbs number one. And again, the week one test. If the Lions can't run the ball immediately, and you're like, oh yeah, right, this was the absolute strength identity of their team, and it's not cool anymore.
Well, is it more likely that in week 4 you look back and go, obviously the Lions were going to be good. They're the Lions. It's the Lions. Or you're going to be like, obviously they were going to be bad. Their whole offensive line is different, and every coach left.
I mean, it feels closer to the second one, but I would say it gives me a slight amount of pause. But Jahmyr Gibbs is still going to be super explosive when he gets the opportunity, and if they're not running the ball well, then he's probably going to have a better chance at catching more passes because they'll go more pass heavy.
Because your socialism PPR scoring, it's catching a pass and losing 9 yards is great.
I love PPR scoring alone. I'm the only one that's in favor of half PPR and PPR. But yeah, I think I think he'll figure out ways to get his points, and it won't be that big of a deal. It won't be like the type of thing that pushes him really far down the list. What's more important is what is the team going to do with David Montgomery versus Jahmyr Gibbs? Like, is it going to be a 50-50 split? Is Jahmyr Gibbs going to slowly start to get more of the workload and kind of like take over that backfield? I think that's more important when it comes to Gibbs. But there's a lot of, I think he is, for being the number one overall pick, or some people's number one overall pick, like he has kind of like a wide range of outcomes probably.
Gibbs and Amon-Ra are still first rounders. And again, we have like our rankings coming out this week at fantasyfootball.theringer.com. We're updating them. And we have a whole bunch of updates coming to fantasyfootball.theringer.com. So check that out. We're going to have a bunch of a revamped ranking system at fantasyfootball.theringer.com, which we're really excited about. And you'll see where we have Gibbs and Amon-Ra when that goes live. I think the other Lions, Sam Laporte, I'm not as excited about. Like David Montgomery, who I love as a human being, and I just think he's like such a fun player to watch. It's just I'm a little nervous. Although again, if the Lions defense is banged up again, they're going to be throwing the ball in all these shootouts anyway. So maybe it's going to work out fine. The last thing I want to do before we get to our sleepers here is just briefly touch on this NFLPA story, where basically Pablo Torre had a bunch of reporting, and then ESPN followed up, and just it was kind of like a 1-2 punch, and they just kind of unraveled the NFLPA in like 2 weeks. And we don't have to go into all of it, but there was just basically Lloyd Howell, who's basically the head of the NFLPA, had a bunch of shady dealings. There was an FBI investigation, which was kind of like somehow underrated in all this. There was just weird stuff about he's signing NDAs with the NFL. There's all this stuff going on. But honestly, the funniest part is he had a car wait for him outside the largest strip club in America in Fort Lauderdale.
And they paid $800.
$800 for car to wait
to sit there and wait for him.
He went from the airport to the place. The car sat there till 6 a.m, drove him home. First of all, just get an Uber to drop you off and call an Uber. Wait, why would you have the car wait for 6 hours while you're at a strip club?
Being drunk with power and money.
Yes.
He did all that. And the best part is he reported it all. He sent these like expense reports into the NFL.
Can you, Heifetz,
he like wasn't trying to like hide anything. He's like, we went to the strip club.
Oh, the quote. Yes. The quote of what the expense report was. And the other one was $2,500 at Magic City in Atlanta, which is, I think, the most famous strip club in America. And the expense, he had someone else expense it, because guess what? When Lloyd Howell was at Booz Allen Hamilton, he got in trouble for expensing strip clubs.
Just can't stop going to strip clubs.
So he had another person submit the receipts. And it was
get rid of Lamborghinis. Get rid of strip clubs.
Well, no, keep strip clubs. Just don't expense them to your job unless you're in a strip club industry. So the expense was filed under player engagement event to support and grow our union.
Sure.
Which is technically a lie.
Thanks a lot, dude. Now we have to change our entire New York plan.
Yeah, he fucked it up for us. Yeah, we had a good thing going.
We were trying to promote Ringer Fantasy Football Show Union.
And the other thing was the $2,500
at 11 in Miami.
The $2,500 they expensed was just cash withdrawals from an ATM. Like it wasn't like itemized. It was $25.76 of just cash at again.
It's for playing
Magic
like
City.
the pinball machines and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
I would love it if there was like some giant leak of the most ridiculous expenses in like corporate business history.
Oh my God.
Like there's some great ones in Hollywood. There's like agents like who have to expense crazy shit that their clients do. I would love to know that stuff.
Anything off the dome you can actually share? That's a great one though.
We had a manager on the town a while ago who used to work at WME, and he said he accidentally paid for like an entire night's worth of drinks at this bar with like everybody. There was like hundreds of people, and it was like $200,000 that he got like screwed with, and it was this whole thing, and WME ended up paying for him and like covered it for him. But he said it was like the scariest week of his life, and he like So there's I can't. That's probably nothing. Like there are probably millions and millions of dollars of expenses that happen every single week from crazy celebrities.
When Tom Cruise sends those 3D prints of your face to your house as a cake, like that's probably going to his, that's getting expensed. He's not paying for that.
Unless he's using Scientology labor for free. Which
perhaps
could be.
I actually preferred when we were talking about the American legal system.
Sea Org labor, yeah.
I was more comfortable talking about the jails than I am talking about Scientology.
Right.
Like a red dot just appears on my forehead. Nothing going on here.
Yep. All right. And now we have a really good show where we won't talk about Tom Cruise anymore. That was me hostage video. Okay. We should probably talk about sleepers because it's in the title. And we're going to get murdered.
Sleepers, aka wet, reckless people.
Wet, reckless.
Sorry, I had
Wet, reckless is unbelievable.
Wet, reckless.
Oh my God. We
should. I know my fantasy team name now.
Yeah, it should be Jordan Wet, Reckless Addison.
He's on the loose. He's wet and he's reckless. Do people say "let's get wet" to refer to drinking? That's a thing, right?
I think it's
I'm going to Google
connotation.
I'm Googling it.
Nah, careful.
Let's get wet.
Something else.
Raymond Lamb's third album from 2009.
Of course.
I don't like where this is going. We're like just skating on the third.
Go to
rail
page 2 of Google. What's on that?
Remember when Google had pages?
There's a lot of songs called "Let's Get Wet," Craig. So I think you're probably onto something here.
Yeah, right. Isn't that
Although it might mean something sexual also.
That's certainly possible.
What the fuck are you guys? Yeah, of course it does. What? Have you ever listened to a Lil Wayne song?
Have you ever actually looked at the lyrics?
Oh my God. All right. Anyway, I'm horrified by what's developing here. Okay, let's talk about sleepers.
Yeah.
So I think that sleepers, it's funny to think that this is controversial. Originally, when we were planning this episode, I was like, people get mad about sleepers. Now we have like 5 other things people get mad about on the show. But I think sleepers, sometimes you say sleepers and people are like, oh yeah, guys who are going lower than they want. Guys who will outperform their draft slot. That's a sleeper. And some people are like, the third string running back on the 49ers or anyone more mainstream than that doesn't count as a sleeper. So we have just categorized different kinds of sleepers. So the lighter, we're some light sleepers, we have some hardcore sleepers. We're gonna go categories of sleep here. And so if you think that the first group of guys we're talking about are too mainstream, I'm sorry, but we're gonna get to like the weird ass guys later. So starting though with some mainstream, these are gonna be like dad nap sleepers, light sleep. DK, you're the expert in the dad nap. You
barely
even
have a child. Noticed you fell asleep.
Exactly.
In the lazy boy chair, hands on the belly, TV on.
Yeah.
Glass in hand. Never fall. Never spills.
A light snore.
Yeah.
DK, who's your dad nap sleeper?
I'm going back to the well with Kenneth Walker. You know the old goofy meme, I'll fucking do it again. I'm going to fucking do it again with Kenneth Walker this year.
I don't know that meme, but okay.
I don't know that meme either.
You don't know that one? I'll fucking do it again.
Oh, I do actually.
Go look it up. Anyway, I still think Kenneth Walker, just in terms of pure running talent, one of the best running backs in the NFL. Last year, he was 4th in PFF rush grade, 12th in PFF receiving grade, which I think is surprising to some people. He was pretty good in the passing game. The Seahawks last year were very pass heavy. They were one of the pass rate over expectation, one of the highest in the league. And so I think going into this next year, Seahawks are basically signaling to the rest of the league that they are going to be a run heavy team. Everything they've done over the offseason, going and getting Clint Kubiak, switching to the wide zone scheme, which, by the way, according to Ryan Heath at Fantasy Points, Walker is much better in the wide zone scheme compared to gap scheme stuff. So that could be a good boost for him as well. But Seahawks, I think, are going to be much more run heavy, much more balanced. Kenneth Walker, basically it just comes down to can he stay healthy? And I think that you could say that about like 75% of the running backs in the NFL. So I'm just going to go and have faith in Kenneth Walker to stay healthy this year finally. I just think he's so good, such an explosive guy. So he breaks so many tackles. And I think the Seahawks are going to put a lot on him. Kubiak has already been quoted as saying, we're going to ask a lot of him this year. And so, I don't know. I'm just back in on Walker again, even though, obviously the Seahawks changed a lot in offense this year.
He's always a guy who passes the eye test. Whenever you watch Kenneth Walker, when he's having the right game, like when he's on and he's healthy and he's getting 20 touches, he genuinely looks like one of the best 10 running backs in the league. So much of this year, I feel like, is defined by these new offensive coordinator gurus switching teams and Kubiak going to Seattle. is a great one that's kind of flying under the radar because there's obviously like the Liam Cohens and the Ben Johnsons of the world. Even like no one's really talking about Kellen Moore even in New Orleans. But I think Kubiak going here is a great one, DK. And yeah, I mean, I've always been in on Kenneth Walker, but you're right. It's mostly a product of him just like not being on the field. And then Zach Charbonnet fills in and is like usually a decent backup for fantasy just by sheer volume.
Just volume, yeah.
But Kenneth Walker is clearly the more talented back.
I totally agree. I agree with Craig, your point too, about just the coaches being one of the biggest stories of the offseason. And one of the reasons people aren't talking about Kellen Moore probably going from the Eagles offense to the Saints head coaching job is the Eagles are the Lamborghini. Pretty easy to make that thing go really fast. And then now he's got the Saints, he's got a minivan. You know, that's not the most talented group of people in New Orleans. But like the flip side is that is what Kubiak's doing, right? Going from New Orleans to Seattle. Like I know the Seattle offensive line, it's weird because I feel like 2 or 3 years ago, the Seattle offensive line was considered actually really talented. And now it's considered decrepit's too mean. But like the truth is it's probably somewhere in the middle. Like I think Seattle, this isn't a dig, but it's capable of being it should be an average offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, going into last year, it was ranked one of the worst in the NFL, and that kind of bore out. It was not very good. They had a bunch of injuries. They were rotating guys in and out like during games. Like that's never
which is
good.
Always a bad because that means they thought of every other option.
This is like horrific. You want continuity on the offensive line because everybody's working together. That among like at any position in the NFL, like the offensive line has to be communicating and working together. If you got one guy going the wrong direction or like doing slightly the wrong thing, it can fuck up the whole thing. And so, and that's part of the reason, honestly, that we saw Kenneth Walker get hit behind the line so much last year. If you go and look at some of Josh Norris was posting videos of this the other day on X, but basically just he was doing superhuman things just to try and get past the line of scrimmage. You know what I mean? And I'm hoping the Seahawks with the investments they've made on the offensive line, Gray Zabel in the first round, they've had some other guys that they've drafted over the last few years that could make a jump. Maybe like Heifetz said, maybe this will be somewhere in the middle. Like that would be great. But right now, you know, obviously that's kind of a bit of a stretch. And that's a projection because based on what we know, they're not very good.
So where should we put Ken Walker in rankings? Because again, we're kind of updating this week. And again, if you look at running back tiers, I think, you know, I don't want to get too lost in it, but you know, there's like Saquon at the top. There's like Saquon, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs. And then there's like Derrick Henry, Devon Achane, like Ashton Genty, and Christian McCaffrey. And then you've got like John Taylor, Bucky Irving, Josh Jacobs, you know, that Chase Brown, that kind of group. And then, you know, it's like, is Ken Walker in that group with like those guys in Breece Hall, or is Ken Walker closer to like Alvin Kamara and some of those older guys? And I do think Ken Walker to me is the last guy in that last group with the Chase Browns, the Breece Halls, because again, I keep joking about the week 1 test, but how much of week 1 would you have to see where you're like, oh my God, Seattle can run the ball.
Yeah.
And Ken Walker has like 100 yards at halftime and you're like, oh my God, I passed on Ken Walker 4 times and you feel really dumb. So that is why I like this one, DK, is it's very easy for me to see the situation where it works. But even if there isn't magic with the Seahawks offensive line, you're still getting a starting running back.
Right. And honestly, if you feel scared about it, just draft Zach Charbonnet a little later in the draft and you'll be fine.
Craig,
who's your dad nap sleeper?
Kind of sticking in the same area. Chase Brown, the running back on the Bengals, is a guy who I think 5 years ago, Chase Brown might have been like a fringe first rounder in drafts.
Right.
And now I think the narrative around kind of like who he is on the Bengals and like his draft profile, a lot of that stuff I think is hurting him, which is fine. He's a 3rd-year guy. He's a 5th-round pick. And he exploded last year when Zach Moss went down. Basically, they were splitting time. Although before Zach Moss got hurt, Chase Brown was already kind of starting to take over a little bit. Zach Moss gets a neck injury in week 8. Then it's Chase Brown's show from week 9 on. Over that stretch, week 9 to week 17, he was the RB5. He was 2nd in touches behind only Saquon. He was getting 23 touches a game. He was playing 85% of snaps. Like he was one of the premier running backs in fantasy football over the second half of the season. And I don't know. It's like, I think it's a little hard for me to see why that won't just happen again. DK, you mentioned Ryan Heath over at Fantasy Points Data. I was reading one of his articles. He was saying that Chase Brown averaged the most expected fantasy points per game of any running back in Fantasy Points Data history over the second half of last year.
Yeah, they were just feeding him. Yeah,
feeding him in the passing game, in the running game. Only Alvin Kamara has averaged more targets per game over the past 2 seasons than what Chase Brown did in the second half of last year. And he's a smaller guy. You know, again, he was a 5th-round pick. People are like, oh, you know, can he handle the workload? Like that's usually a concern. Chase Brown at Illinois kind of was a guy who could do it. He had 350 touches in 2022 in college. Zach Moss might get cut. They restructured his contract. They have Samaje Perine, and they have a rookie in Taj Brooks, who was a 6th-round pick. And so I'm kind of like, this is like the least sexy running back you can pick that might just have the workload of all of the sexy running backs. And he's on one of the highest scoring offenses in the league. The only downside is that he's Chase Brown and he's a 5th-rounder. And like, I don't know, maybe he's not actually that good.
I totally agree. I think Chase Brown's kind of like the new Kyron Williams, where it's like, well, we saw it, but do we believe it? Because and it's also it's just a function of playing time. Like I can't stress that enough. Did my voice just crack there? I can't stress it enough. But the guys that are usually elite that you end up taking in the top 5, unless it's Alvin Kamara 2017, where he's scoring a touchdown every single game, literally, and Alvin Kamara scored I think 50 touchdowns in those first 50 games. Unless you're that efficient, you are playing 80% of the snaps or 75% minimum. And the elite guys are like Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, 95% plus. Psychopaths who tell their coaches when they ask to get off the field, they're like, no, I will not leave the field right now. Like a pitcher sending the manager back, like, I'm not coming out of the game. That's how you get that way. And there's like 4 of them a year. Like even Derrick Henry isn't necessarily playing 90% of the snaps. And so Chase Brown just joined that group. And that was the shock of Kyron Williams. He's not the most talented guy. He's the most efficient guy. But Kyron Williams was playing like 94% of the snaps a couple years ago. And so Chase Brown, the question to me is, will he be that this year? My knee-jerk reaction was, of course not. Like my knee-jerk, like coming into the season, everyone's ranking Chase Brown all high and stuff. And I'm like, they're going to go back to 60-40. Chase Brown will be the 60. Zach Moss will be the 40. They don't want to play that way. They had to play that way. And the closer I get, and I want to see this breakdown in training camp, and I'm like, I think I might be wrong. Like, I think Chase Brown actually is going to get maybe not 95%. Like, was it week December 22nd over the Browns? He played 98.2% of the snaps. So he came out for 1 play.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That won't, but again, I do think he actually will be an 85% snap guy. I want to see how August goes, which to your point, Greg, yeah, Chase Brown might have he probably would have been ranked like 13th 4 years ago.
Yeah, and now receivers are much more inflated now in drafts. Running backs are kind of getting pushed down, which I think is why he's a little bit lower. His name brand is not popular at all, but I don't know. People Burrow has spoken very highly of him. The offensive coordinator in Cincinnati, Dan Pitcher, just said he's going to be a focal point of the offense. I'm just kind of like, I don't know.
Dan Pitcher.
I'm kind of just like, why wouldn't he be?
I think that's a good call. And also, it's a classic thing that always happens, which is guys who aren't that famous, people are a little afraid to take. Like the
not
person
only
who
he's
had
not that famous, and he's a 5th rounder. And he has a boring name.
It's all those overlapping things. Bengals, which are like, it's sexy, but like, it's frankly, the person who had Chase Brown last year knows how good he is. But unless you had him in a different league, you probably don't. And the other thing is, it's scary to take Chase Brown over T. Higgins if you're just kind of casually, you know what I mean? You're going to take the Bengals offense and T. Higgins is there and you're like, yeah, I'm going to take Chase Brown. If you don't know much about Chase Brown, like that's hard to do.
Yeah, and just like, I don't know, if you're staring at like other running backs or other famous people, like, I don't know, even like Breece Hall, Devontae Adams, like, yeah, it's just hard to select Chase Brown over Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill, George Kittle, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans are there. And you're like, I'm going to take Chase Brown. But you're right. Like, that's how Chase Brown falls. And then you're like, oh my God, I got Chase Brown in the 4th round, which is probably not a thing in like, best ball. That's probably not going to happen. But like, yeah, people who don't know what Chase Brown is. I think this is a really good one. And again, I know that on one hand, we're talking about a top 30 player, but this to me is the definition of this is the high end of a sleeper because people don't know who the fuck Chase Brown is still.
In home
I think
leagues,
this is a great call.
Like you're getting a guy who was a top 5 running back in like the 3rd round.
Yeah, I like that. Again, and I think this is worth checking in on August to see, just to confirm whether we still think he's going to get 5 out of every 6 plays, because that's all it takes.
Yep.
I think my big picture take is I agree with everything you guys are saying. I'm still just like, I just don't know if I fully believe that they're going to utilize him at that rate again.
That's the thing. If he plays 60%, you feel
because is that the optimal way to do it? Maybe in their minds it is. The reason most teams don't do it is because you worry about guys getting hurt and wearing down as the season goes on. And so coaches are in a lot of cases,
but they did not bring in anybody to like really help supplement that. I mean, Moss, they
did
draft a guy, but he was late rounder.
And, but DK, I had the same reaction. And then you know what I remembered? Who is the most old school team in the entire league in every way?
I don't know. Who?
I think it's the Cincinnati Bengals.
You think they're the most old school?
100%. The reason the Bengals are so old school, one, they're considered cheap, but it's because they don't have a billionaire family fortune.
Quote unquote. Yeah.
Well, they're considered cheap, but it's because the guy who started the Bengals was Paul Brown.
Oh,
That's why the Cleveland Browns are named the Browns, is that Paul Brown coached him, and then they booted him, so he started his own team, the Cincinnati Bengals. Paul Brown was Belichick before Belichick. Paul Brown invented the fucking playbook. Like, Paul Brown invented the huddle and like calling plays and stuff. And so Paul Brown is like the most old school football. Bill Belichick's favorite coach is Paul Brown. So the guy who owns the Bengals is the son.
He's related to Chase Brown.
Yeah, he's related to Chase Brown. Yeah, but no, he's the son of the most old school coach that's ever lived. And so they have like 8 scouts or something because they just think a small motivated group of people is better than a 20. They think 20 scouts will get lazy, so they have like 8. They're just old school.
I heard you're not wrong with that. I heard Rich Rebar talking about this the other day, I think, and it really hit home with me. And we should do a point of ranking of coaches who can't help themselves. And it's like Shanahan, McVay. It's the coaches that when the chips are down, like they don't trust anyone else. You know what I mean? And we have to figure out, I think, over the next couple of months or next couple of weeks, I should say, how much does Zach Taylor trust any of these other running backs whatsoever? You know what I mean? Because if he doesn't, and odds are maybe he doesn't, then we're talking about like a huge workload for Chase Brown. I think the one thing that's still kind of like sticking in the back of my mind is they brought back Zach Moss. I think there is, like the Coach Speak Index has been talking about how like they're barely mentioning him and Zach Moss, and they're talking about Zach Moss after like Samaje P, Ryan Taj Brooks, things like that. So that would be like a clue that maybe Zach Moss is just not in their plans this year.
They could save $3 million by releasing him.
Right.
And again, they restructured his contract. He's coming off a neck injury.
Right. So if Zach Moss leaves, then I'm like pretty convinced. And maybe the edge is just like assuming Zach Moss is not going to be here. And that could be the case. But if Zach Moss is on the team to start the year, that makes me a little worried because last year, remember, like he was way out snapping Chase Brown while Chase Brown kind of like learned the offense and stuff. And it was like a trust thing.
But that was changing. The 3 weeks before Moss went down, Zach Moss or Chase Brown was getting 57% of the team's rushing, and Zach Moss was only getting 26.
Right. My point is just like the trust factor. Like if the coaches trust Zach Moss to like be in at certain times, then that's going to hurt Chase Brown. I'm not saying that Zach Moss is going to be the starter or anything like that. I'm just saying it to me, it's like we got to figure out how much Zach Taylor can't help himself.
I think that I was intrigued that Dan Pitcher told Ben Baby at ESPN last December, they said the most consistent players in the Bengals offense are Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Chase Brown. However, DK, you also, I think last year called Zach Moss fantasy. You called him glitter. Like he never really goes away.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
I don't know if I said that, but I like
glitter. I don't know. I think you said it. Maybe it was me. I don't know.
Can't get rid of him.
I'll take credit for it because that's good.
Okay, so we like Chase. Basically, we think Chase Brown as a top 30 player is pretty good. I think
ultimately, yeah, I'm bullish on him too. Yeah.
My dad nap guy, again, not exactly groundbreaking, but I have Justin Fields, the quarterback for the Jets, who again I think is, he's ranked all over the place. Like there are sites that have him 80th, there are sites that have him 130th, but I think for the most part he's going around 90th, 100th. We're moving him up on our rankings just because I'm going to move him up. But my quarterback strategy this year is very simple. I would like one of the top 4 guys. I would like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels. If one of those guys falls to me in round 4, I'm not even blinking. I'm going to take him. And I will strongly think about Josh Allen, Lamar, Hurts, and Jaden Daniels in like the middle of the 3rd round. Context, et cetera, et cetera. But I would like one of those 4. And if one of them don't fall to me, I'm not taking Burrow, Mahomes, Baker Mayfield. I don't want a pocket passer 60th. I'm going to wait 50 or 60 spots. I'm going to take Justin Fields 90th or 100th or whatever. Because frankly, like when Justin Fields plays, he's good in fantasy football. This has been memory hold. I haven't heard anyone talk about this. I haven't heard anyone discuss this. But Justin Fields, when he played the first 6 weeks last season, like last season, the first 6 weeks, if you just look at quarterbacks with the most fantasy points, it was Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and Justin Fields. Justin Fields ran for 5 touchdowns in his first 6 games. Then he was benched because Tomlin wanted Russell Wilson to play, and I think a lot of people in the Steelers building wanted Fields, but Tomlin wanted Russ, and then it was weird. Fields is going to play, man. Like he's going to start for this Jets team. Like he's the plan. Like I still think it's an under-discussed story that the Jets are just going into a season with Fields and Tyrod Taylor. Like that's just so surprising to me. But it almost got buried by all the other news of like Darnold was that day, Geno Smith was around then, and so it went under the radar. But Aaron Glenn, who's the head coach of the Jets, coached against Justin Fields like 8 times. because he would same division with the Bears. Like they've seen Justin Fields, so they know what they're doing, and they want to run the ball. Like they want to run. And I think there's an Eagles-esque offense. I'm not saying the Jets are the Eagles by any means, but like they want to be physically imposing. Justin Fields is going to have design runs. And I'm like, okay, what do we always talk about? If the rules of fantasy football are stupid. A rushing yard's worth like almost 3 times more than a passing yard. And so I think in terms of floor, Justin Fields' floor is, it's hard to imagine Justin Fields scoring less than 10 points in a week with the amount of time he's going to be running. Like, I mean, he'll do it. But the floor is high. If Justin Fields becomes a good passer, the ceiling is really high, but he can suck in real life and be great in fantasy football, which is what happened in 2022, when Justin Fields had the second most rushing yards any quarterback has ever had in a season. He did like 1,100.
I think it being 2022 is important because I think Justin Fields only playing 6 games last year and being good. So I had him on my fantasy team last year. I was aware that he was good. In the same way, Heifetz, you mentioned like people who didn't have Chase Brown didn't think about Chase Brown, didn't realize that Chase Brown was good. I kind of think it's the same thing with Fields a little bit where like he played 6 games, then got benched, and now he's on the Jets. Like you want to talk about like stinky sticker value? Like the name Justin Fields in general is just like Justin Fields equals bad quarterback. And now he's on the Jets. If you were in a home league with friends, family, whatever, and you see Justin Fields NYJ, I think a lot of people are going to be like, I'm good.
Yeah, 100%.
And you like sneaking up around, or maybe you don't even have to, and taking Justin Fields. I do think that 2022 season, which at this point 3 years ago is like borderline. I feel pretty confident that if he plays 17 games, that's going to happen. He's got a good offensive line. There's no real backup threat. Like I completely agree.
It's just hard for me to imagine the guys going around Justin Fields are like, Tucker Kraft on the Packers, Tyrone Tracy on the Giants. It's just so hard for me to imagine the reason you won your league being like, well, I drafted Tyrone Tracy 97th. Like that's hard for me to envision that world. But it's so Justin Fields being like, yeah, I had Fields, and you're like, yeah, that gets you halfway there. It's not hard to imagine that, especially because it is so easy to just get a pocket passer to pair with him. And I feel that way so strongly. You get Fields, and if you're worried about it, get Jordan Love 2 rounds later. You get Trevor Lawrence. You get CJ Stroud. Like you can get Justin Herbert. Like you just pair him with like a normal pocket passer. Geno Smith you could pair him with. And so I think that, and you have your Thunder Lightning. Fields is your crazy upside. You get a pocket passer if Fields sucks. And it's so easy to do. So the Fields is I want him mostly everywhere that isn't thinking about it.
He's kind of the poster child of the Kamani code right now in terms of that's the Rich Rebar invented that years ago. And like just the cheat code that is quarterback rushing. He is right now, I think, the only guy that is really a good value based on like his upside on the Kamani code. And basically, him and Anthony Richardson.
Which is my plan C is if I don't get Fields, I want the normal. I want an AFC South duo. I want CJ Stroud and Lawrence with Anthony Richardson, who is free and undrafted. And again,
just to reiterate what you said, you lingered just to linger on it a little bit. He could suck at passing, and he's very likely going to.
Which is weird.
And it
is
matter.
Weird taking a bad quarterback.
It won't matter.
And it's we joked our first season we did the show. I think we talked about how Blake Bortles. It was like play him, but don't watch the games. Don't watch the Jaguars play. Just play Blake Bortles. And Fields is like the poster child for that, where it's like he's getting benched for his play, but he's a top 6 fantasy quarterback. And they're like, it's because he's 6'4", it's like a Winklevoss twin could run a 4.4. It's unbelievable. He's giant. He's a huge person. He's thick. He's built, and he's faster than most safeties. Probably Fields is faster than most safeties in the NFL.
Yeah, he's like really fast.
Is somewhere between cornerback speed and safety speed. That is how fast Justin Fields is. And so on a team that's going to have design run game, I don't know. It's like that's the point in your draft where it's like just swing. It's like the 100th pick in the draft. Take Justin Fields. And again, if he sucks, who cares? And again, I'll spare everyone this rant, but it's the same thing with Anthony Richardson. Where option A is great, get one of the great 4 quarterbacks. Option B is get Justin Fields. And if you miss Fields, take Anthony Richardson with your last pick. Who can it doesn't matter. It's your last pick. I can't think of a player that has more upside that's free than Anthony Richardson. He's not getting drafted in most places. So that's my thoughts on quarterback this year. All right, let's go to Rem right now, which is more traditional sleepers. Because I know like Walker, Chase Brown, Fields, these aren't necessarily like classic sleepers or whatever. Craig, why don't you start us? Give us like a Rem sleep, like a normal, regular, classic sleeper here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Calvin Ridley on the Titans. He's going outside the top 30 at the wide receiver position. And I think my whole basis around this pick is just like, what if Cam Ward is good? Mm-hmm. I don't think anyone's talking about Cam Ward. I can't remember.
First overall pick?
I can't
Who are
remember
you talking about?
Cameron Ward?
Never heard of
Cameron
him.
Ward, the
Quarterback out of
quarterback?
Miami? Yeah.
I
The
just like
financier?
I don't know. I can't remember less conversation around the number 1 overall pick that's a quarterback in the NFL. No one's talking about Cam Ward. If you look at what Calvin Ridley did last year with Will Levis, you might on the surface be like, all right, he had a mediocre season, which is largely true. However, DeAndre Hopkins was there for the first 7 weeks of the season. After DeAndre Hopkins left from week 7 on, Calvin Ridley was on a 1,300-yard pace. That's with Will Levis. And so I'm like, okay, he was the wide receiver 23 over the last 9-10 weeks of the season, again, with Will Levis. So I'm like, the competition they brought in to me is very thin. It's 33-year-old Tyler Lockett. They have Van Jefferson. They still have Chigakonkwo at tight end, and they drafted a couple 4th-round wide receivers. And I'm like, man, if Cam Ward is just solid, 1,400 yards for Calvin Ridley seems very plausible. And like, what if Cam Ward is awesome? What if he walks in and has a CJ Stroud-like rookie season, and he's really good? The sky is the limit for, I mean, you're immediately like looking at a top 15 wide receiver in the league for Ridley, who is 30 years old. He's going to be 31 in December, I think. You know, he missed a year for the suspension. He hasn't missed a game since he's come back from the suspension. I just think this is like a really boring, under the radar guy catching passes from another under the radar number 1 overall pick, where it's like, if these guys are just solid, I think this is an incredibly valuable pick.
Craig, the other thing to add in here too is if Ridley's just his deployment and his utilization improves a little bit in the way that they like put him on the field, have him run routes, get open. And that's always been his thing, is he's a really good route runner. He can separate early in his route. He can get open, catch everything in the short and intermediate area too. Last year, they were using him basically like a deep receiver, and he could do that too, obviously. And he posted some good production other than, touchdowns. But that offense was completely dysfunctional, and they were basically just asking him to run vertical routes way too much. And I think I could see that changing this year with the type of offense they're going to try and run with Cam Ward. If you look at the numbers, air yards per target, Calvin Ridley. And so that means that the distance of the throws downfield for average over his targets. He was 4th in the NFL among receivers with 20 receptions. The guys ahead of him, Alec Pierce, Christian Watson, Rashid Shaheed. Basically like, deep ball experts, guys that are just like running on play action and in a lot of ways doing wind sprints for like most of the game. Those are the 3 guys that finished ahead of him in air yards per target. I think if you get him involved in the short and intermediate area a lot this year, like he could go over 100 catches. You know what I mean? And like that alone, like Cam Ward doesn't have to be great. Just changing the way that you use him a little bit could be really, really good for Calvin Ridley.
I like this take a lot. JG Zacharyson was talking on his show about how it's kind of a hard year to find quote unquote like sleeper receivers between like, there's like a very clear top 10, top 12 receivers. And then there's kind of a lot of similarities from like the 14th receiver to like the 40th receiver. Like there's a lot of similarities. It's like a flat tier. And I think Calvin Ridley is the guy where I'm like, who's the guy no one's thinking about that could pop because of everything you're saying, Craig. And I think that it checks every box for an under the radar receiver, starting with the team. The Titans are boring, and like love to the Titans, but the Titans are in Tennessee nationally. Like they're just they're behind the University of Tennessee. I think that school is in the blood and the Titans are just in the water. And then you look across the country and like the Titans are honestly like last in terms of like penetrating the national consciousness. So people
they don't have any famous players. They don't have a famous coach. They don't have anybody famous on the team.
They don't have anyone famous. So like the Titans are just an easy team to miss. Cam Ward is an easy number 1 pick to miss. And so and you know what? The biggest improvement the Titans did in the offseason, other than quarterback, was the offensive line. And so you have an offensive line that's going to go from the problem to I think part of the solution. They had the best offensive line coach, Bill Callahan. Shout out to the reverse Nepo, the son hiring the father. But like there is the reverse Nepo, expression. The rarely seen reverse Nepo. But it's not really Nepo because the dad is the best O-line coach, and there's like a 30-year history of Bill Callahan. The year 2 jump in the offensive line is huge. And so I think Dan Moore Jr. left tackle, you're moving J.C. Latham to the right tackle. I'll spare all the details. But I think that, you have the centers come back from Achilles. But other than that, like I think that the offensive line is in a really good spot. And that just makes everything better. And again, the thing I can't get over, all Cam Ward's talked about this offseason since he got drafted is Calvin Ridley. He said, I like A.J. Brown, but he's no Calvin Ridley. Like, you know what I mean?
Calvin Ridley's still good. He's still really good.
And Calvin Ridley's forgettable because he was behind Julio Jones, so no one ever talked about him. Then he got gambling suspension, and he was just a meme. So he's like a 31, but he's young 31 because he took a year off 3 years ago. Even A-Rod, when he got suspended at 38, a year off when you're a pro athlete and you get to train all year, knowing you're to go back. Yes, it's a big deal. Like it extends people's careers actually sometimes. So I think this is a great call, Craig. I like this one a lot. Ridley's just a boring player and a boring team that if there's a worst to first team, like the Titans could be the surprise playoff team this year.
And Craig, your whole thesis with like, what if Cam Ward is good? If Ward is good, maybe he could score double-digit touchdowns too, in addition to all the volume that he's going to get.
Well, I should also mention that Nick Westbrook-Akine, the guy who had 9 touchdowns in the Titans last year, is not there.
Yeah.
Okay, DK, give us another like Rem sleeper here.
So this guy, his name just flies under the radar continually every single year. Jakobi Meyers for the Raiders. Right now, he's going, according to Fantasy Pros ADP, 40th at receiver, wide receiver 40, which is kind of crazy to me because last year he was a wide receiver 26, and that was with Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, and Desmond Ridder at quarterback. Last year, among receivers, he was 15th in targets and 12th in catches. Jakobi Meyers was. He only had 4 touchdowns, so obviously that like lowered his ceiling in fantasy. But I think going back, it's just proven he's a good player. He has averaged 21% target rate over the last 5 seasons. He demands targets. He gets targets wherever he is. 22% last year. The competition for passing game volume in Las Vegas this year is Brock Bowers. You have Trey Tucker, who is more of a lid lifter, stretch the field guy. Like he's playing a role to manipulate like the way that defenses play more than getting a bunch of targets. And then you have 3 rookies, Jack Besh, Dante Thornton, and Tommy Mellett, who was a quarterback in college, is getting some hype right now. I don't know who's going to end up being sort of like the number 3 guy in Las Vegas. It's probably going to be just a combination of everyone else on the team. But I think it's going to be Bowers and Meyers. And I think people are still underrating how much of a boost Geno Smith could give to this offense in terms of just efficiency, not necessarily volume, because Pete Carroll is going to run the ball a lot, but efficiency, converting in the red zone. And I think it's going to be a lot of teams are going out there and just going to be bracketing Bowers because Bowers is a superhero. And that's going to leave Jakobi Meyers, one-on-one in a lot of cases, able to get open. I just think every year people kind of overlook him because he doesn't score a ton of touchdowns, but he's going to get a ton of volume this year in this like pretty concentrated passing game in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, similar to Calvin Ridley, it's like such an under-the-radar quarterback upgrade.
Yeah.
That it's in a very popular, talented division. People are not really talking about the Raiders in that regard. I think Geno Smith even is like weirdly underrated. He's going super late in drafts.
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought Jakobi Meyers is good, but you're right. The touchdown, I feel like you really need somebody to hit by scoring touchdowns. And honestly, he's not famous because he doesn't score touchdowns.
Right.
I guess he was famous because he didn't have a touchdown.
Yeah, he needed
so
almost
long
40
in his
games
career
to score a touchdown.
Yeah.
I think it was the longest ever streak.
He has 20 touchdowns in 6 seasons, I believe. Which not great. He's basically averaging 3 a year. So he probably needs to get to like 6 or 7 for this to actually pay off. But I don't disagree with you, DK, that like the floor raiser that Geno Smith and the play calling and all that stuff is, I think this is a really, once again, unsexy pick.
Yeah.
You get Calvin Ridley and Jakobi Meyers later in drafts and like nobody's going to say a word.
No. Yeah, I agree. Honestly, we always do like the all boring team every year, and these are two of the most boring receivers.
There, yeah.
I think they're genuinely the 2 most boring players you could take in the top 40, 50 receivers are Calvin Ridley and Jakobi Meyers. But yeah, the boringness is probably going to outweigh. I think and also the underrated quarterback, underrated scheme, underrated offensive line improvements are. I think it's a perfect storm. So yeah. I like both these. Any other Rem sleepers?
I have one more who I actually would argue is also kind of boring for how early this guy was picked. And it's Tet McMillan, who's on the Panthers, who I loved him coming out of the draft. He was my favorite receiver coming out of the draft. I weirdly think for a guy who went 8th overall, he is flying a little bit under the radar.
For sure.
And I think that's because like the Bryce Young, are we sure what we saw last year was
the Panthers.
Real? Yeah,
if it was the Bears, we'd be all over it.
Totally. And it's like, I don't know, Bryce was so bad for like a season and a half. And now it's like, all right, he had 8 good games. Is this real? There's so much buzz around all these other year 1, 2, 3 quarterbacks, your Drake Mays, your Stroud, your like even Bo Nix, Michael Penix. But I'm like, man, talk about lack of competition. Talk about a fit that was perfect. Bringing in a big guy like Tet McMillan to fit with Dave Canales, who was the architect behind Geno Smith's resurrection, the Baker Mayfield resurrection, and now the Bryce Young resurrection. That is all Dave Canales. And now it's year 2 in that system. When Bryce Young kind of got going last year, from weeks 8 on, he was like around the QB 15. And he was 6th in PFF passing grade. He had an incredible big-time throw rate, and he was doing that to nobody. He was doing that to Xavier Legette and Jalen Coker. And I mean, Ted McMillan is
Thielen
like,
went off late too. Yeah.
Thielen, sure. And all those guys are still there, but like they were desperately in need of like a number one. And now all those other guys, Leggett and Coker and Thielen, I think can succeed much better off as like ancillary pieces that can support the offense. And Tet to me is a guy who can just jump right in and get 130, 140 targets. And I personally think he's one of the most skilled players and one of the most gifted movers for his size that I've seen. This is like what Canales does with Mike Evans, with Baker, I think could happen with Tet McMillan and Bryce Young.
There's a funny thing happening. Because Tet McMillan's on average being drafted like 60th. And there's an irony that because Marvin Harrison Jr. slipped up to like a top 25 pick, some people took him like 18th, 19th overall, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. was disappointing. I think people are a little afraid to rank rookie receivers high.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Which is ironic because all the other rookie receivers were awesome. Like Brian Thomas was incredible. Malik Neighbors way outperformed where he was. Lad McConkey way outperformed where he was. You know what I mean? Like for the most part, all the other guys that weren't Brock Bowers, all the other guys that weren't Marvin Harrison Jr. did great. And so there's almost like a fear to rank Tet McMillan higher, even though last year it totally bared out. That was good because the headliner, Marvin Harrison Jr., did poorly. But Tet McMillan is probably like a very obviously good pick. He's surrounded by like, Jalen Waddle or Calvin Ridley or people. But based on the history of rookie receivers, people are afraid of the Panthers. People are afraid of the unknown of rookies. But yeah, Tet McMillan. Also, his mom wants people to go. He wants him to go by Tetairoa. Or T-Mac, but I think he's clearly
like Tet.
Well, he doesn't give a shit. His mom is like, I named him Tetairoa.
Tetairoa.
So she's like, Tetairoa. Yeah, sorry, I can't. Well,
I'm
that's
not
why
actually
I call him Tet.
100% sure I'm pronouncing that right.
I listened to it 3 times and I'm like, I'm going to botch this. So
Yeah.
Tetairoa. But
T-Mac.
I don't know.
There's
There's just like no buzz.
T-Bone.
There's no conversation around him. And
Right.
it's like maybe he went to Arizona. I don't know. It's the
You know why?
Panthers stink.
I'll tell you why. Because it's the Panthers are boring and it's so hard to talk about Carolina because it is not interesting to say, yeah, the Panthers were good, but what if they suck again? Because no one wants to. It is really hard. I think one of the hardest things if you cover the NFL this season is go full-throated into the season saying the Panthers are going to be even better than they were last year. Like no one wants to be caught, honestly, in that position if the Panthers suck again. Like no one wants to like 100% say that the Bryce Young renaissance is real. And because of that, it's like a little weird to talk about. I personally lean toward, I think Bryce Young, got frankly better coaching after he came back the second time when Andy Dalton was with the car accident. And I think he got his mojo back. I think confidence is everything.
Back.
He's 23. His girlfriend was dating Tyrese Maxey when Tyrese Maxey was super famous. Like it was a tough time for Bryce Young. Tough.
Yeah.
And then he started playing better and I was like, yeah, DK, you put it best. You're like, oh yeah, right. This is why I had him ranked so high.
This is why a lot of people had him as the number 1 pick in the draft. Craig, I almost had Tattoo on this in terms of just like one of my favorite kind of in that range guys. But the other thing that's working in his favor and in Bryce Young's favor is the Panthers, according to Warren Sharp's strength of schedule, have the 7th easiest schedule in the NFL. That's going to help a ton. I don't think obviously the schedule is very it varies week to week and maybe not always super predictive, but like having an easy schedule helps so much. It helps so much for a quarterback in particular. It helps for the offense in general. If Bryce keeps developing, what if he's actually a little bit better than he was last year? I looked this up, and this is obviously, it doesn't mean a ton, but in the 10 games that he started last year after getting benched, he had 15 touchdowns and 6 picks. That's a 26 touchdown pace over a 17 game season. That's what Mahomes threw last year. Like it's not out of the realm of possibility that he could have 25, 30 touchdowns this season on a team with an easy schedule that's playing in probably a lot of like shootout type games. They're not going to be, like super run heavy probably. So I don't know. I think there's some value here just because of what people think of Bryce Young and like you said, like Tet McMillan for being one of the top receivers in the draft. In our opinion, he was by far the top receiver in the draft. I guess other than Travis Hunter, depends on how you define him. But, there's just not much talk about him right now. I haven't heard anything about him in like a couple months.
And also, the Panthers defense gave up the most points ever. And so even if you fix that, it's still going to be bad. Like, bad would be an improvement for Carolina. So there's just still a team that's going to be in an offensive position.
Yeah, I think I'm like, all right. So my philosophy is I'm just going to bet on number 1 overall picks at quarterback, throwing to receivers that have no other competition around them.
Yeah. Okay. I want to DK, do you have any other I have just a list of running backs I want to run through, so to speak.
Yeah, this is like, are you talking like the really late round sleeper type deal?
So I have one Rem guy, and then I have a bunch of coma guys. My Rem guy, I'll just do quickly. It's just Rhamondre Stevenson for the Patriots, and it's really simple. I think he's been written off more than anyone.
The unsexiest pick in the
People
world.
have moved on from
Rhamondre Stevenson.
They've decided he sucks.
Is being Rhamondre Stevenson.
I don't care for Job.
They don't care for Job.
I love
care
all my
for
running
Rhamondre.
backs equally.
Yeah. Earlier that day. There are places I respect a lot that have Rhamondre Stevenson ranked like 123rd.
Yeah.
And I get that, but that's kind of what you rank guys when they're like 31. And Rhamondre Stevenson is 27. And
that can't be right.
There's no way that's
correct. I know.
There's no way that's correct.
And so it's this weird situation where everybody expects the Patriots offense to get better. People expect the offensive line to be better, the quarterbacking to be better, the coaching to be better. And yet Rhamondre Stevenson is in some ways going 40, 50, sometimes 60 spots after Trevion Henderson, who was the second round pick out of Ohio State that the Patriots drafted. And yet, would you be surprised even a little if Rhamondre Stevenson outscored Trevion Henderson in the first half of the season?
Yeah, this is something that Nathan Yonke from PFF has been really hitting hard lately, or I don't know, just since the draft. And basically Josh McDaniels, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think it's one season in all of the seasons he's either been an offensive coordinator or a head coach, and that's like 16 or 17 years or whatever it is. He's had one like a non-committee running back situation. Basically, he's had like a workhorse running back in one season out of all those years. Basically, it's usually an early down lead, quote unquote, lead back guy, and then a pass catching third down specialist, passing game specialist. And he always kind of likes to have that mix. Rhamondre's still there. Rhamondre is probably going to get goal line looks, because he's a quote unquote bigger back. And yeah, I mean, I think we like the fact that we've all kind of moved on from Rhamondre. Like Trevion Henderson's exciting, all that stuff, but he's still probably going to get a lot of carries in this offense.
And that's the thing. And again, Trevion Henderson, he's still a rookie. And to be clear, I think the two most the most un-rookie-like rookies, other than Tyler Shuck, who's 26, the most un-rookie-like rookies are the two Ohio State guys. It's Emeka Egbuka and it's Trevion Henderson. I wrote this down from Sam Presti, the GM of the Thunder, when they won. He said this on the podium, accepting the trophy. And I wrote it down because I thought it was awesome. And about how the Thunder are such a young team and how did you do this? And Sam Presti said, age is a number. Sacrifice and maturity are characteristics. And I think if you look at Trevion Henderson and Emeka Egbuka, I'm like, those guys are young, but they are like the sacrifice and maturity. Like they have the characteristics to be good quickly. So I'm not trying to say Trevion Henderson won't be good. However, he's still a rookie. And I think that it's okay to say I think Henderson might succeed, but also maybe that's the second half of the year. And so I'm not even saying I like Rhamondre Stevenson that much. I'm not even saying I buy into the Patriots being a rebound playoff team. But if I had to pick someone in the top 130 where I'm like, that price, the quote unquote market has decided.
Value.
Yeah, he's just
wrong.
too low.
Like it's just wrong. Like Rhamondre should probably be he's going 30 or 40 spots after Jaylen Warren. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I pulled up the stat here from Nathan Yonke. In 17 of 18 McDaniels seasons, either as offensive coordinator or the head coach, the running back who leads the team in rushing attempts is not the same one who leads the backfield in third down snaps. So it's always
17
a
of
delineation.
18 seasons. Has he been an offensive coordinator for 18
Yeah,
seasons?
man.
He got the
Going
Broncos
back to
job in
like
like 2010.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like the late aughts.
Josh McDaniels is supposed to be Sean McVay. Like Josh McDaniels was hired at 31, 32. Like he was supposed to, John Gruden was like the guru. John Gruden was how old? Back when 40 was young. He was the young guy who won a Super Bowl, and then Tomlin won Super Bowl, and McDaniel was supposed to be the next like crazy young Lane Kiffin too. But like Josh McDaniels
he was the OC for the Patriots in 2006.
That is, and that, yeah, 2007, the undefeated team. But
right.
the McDaniels, great story. There's a book behind me by Seth Wickersham, Better to Be Feared. And there's a story in there. Because Josh McDaniels, like, got the Colts job and then took back because Jim Irsay kind of passed out or whatever in his bathroom for like 90 minutes. And Josh McDaniels' wife was like, I don't know if you should work for this guy. But anyway, there's a story in there about how Josh McDaniels got the Broncos job in 2009 or 2010, whatever it was.
2009.
And Belichick is like, because again, Josh McDaniels coordinated the best offense we'd ever seen in 2007.
Yeah, 07.
And so Belichick was like, all right, I'll help you, which he didn't always help people with interviews. And Belichick writes down, he takes two pieces of loose leaf paper and he writes down front and back on both. Here are all the questions you should ask ownership about the job. And it's 4 pages of questions.
Wow.
And later, Pat Bolin, who's since passed, said that he couldn't believe the detailed oriented nature of Josh McDaniels. And he's like, look at this guy thinking through. I can't believe he thought so much about the job. He just read what fucking Bill Belichick wrote.
He gave him the answers to the quiz.
Answers to the test. Shockingly, couldn't do it on his own without the answers to the test.
He chat GPT'd it.
Really. Just shockingly was not prepared for the job. Anyway, sorry, that's a long tangent, but I think Rhamondre Stevenson's a good value.
I've always been a Rhamondre believer. He needs to stop fumbling.
He does. If he fumbles, Vrabel's going to bench his ass, but let's pretend that's not what's priced in. People are not out here ranking him low because he fumbled. Like, people are ranking him low because he sucked last year and people forgot about him. Yeah. Anyway, I just want to roll through some other names faster than that conversation of just like buckets of running backs I'm targeting late.
Mm-hmm.
It's July 21st. We're recording this. Like, we'll sharpen which of these guys we want, but handcuffs to the elite running backs, the backups that if someone gets hurt, Saquon Barkley, cover of Madden, fiduciary duty to rank this person higher. Will Shipley, who actually had 250 touches his junior year at Clemson. So there is a 3-down possibility of Will Shipley, which I kind of thought A.J. Dillon might get it, but I kind of think Will Shipley is the guy behind the Saquon. Isaac Guerrero in San Francisco. I feel like we have drafted the San Francisco running backups high for so long, and then now Jordan Mason is gone to the Vikings. Elijah Mitchell has gone to the Chiefs, and yet somehow Isaac Guerrero is not going that high, and Christian McCaffrey with the bilateral Achilles tendonitis, you're like, Isaac Guerero is probably good value.
Jordan James too.
And Jordan James, but he's a rookie, and I'm like, the Shanahan McVay, there's a perfectionism. Like they just don't want those first year guys to play if they can help it. And so I think Guerendo is the guy and will be the guy if McCaffrey gets hurt. And then Tyler Algier behind Bijan Robinson, who I don't think Bijan's necessarily a lock to get hurt. You know, it's like McCaffrey's sick when he's younger. But Tyler Algier ran for 1,000 yards when he was a rookie. So it's really, there's no other backups where you're like, yeah, that guy can obviously has a track record of doing it. So Tyler Algier does. The other guys I want to shout out, the year 2 running backs, who didn't do a ton last year, but I think are underrated. Ray Davis on the Bills, who has the size for goal line work, the hands to catch passes. And when James Cook went down, Ray Davis had 23 touches, like 150 yards and multiple touchdowns.
He always looks good too, yeah.
He's, if all the starters get hurt, Ray Davis is the guy where I'm like, that's an elite offense and he's probably getting all 3 downs. Like, that's crazy. To a lesser extent, Jalen Wright in Miami, I think, could be like the Raheem Mostert backup. I'm not as excited about him as Ray Davis, but he might have an easier path to playing time because Raheem Mostert left Miami. Trey Benson in Arizona, who did nothing, but I do think he'll have more of a role this year. That's a low bar because Trey Benson barely played. But I think Trey Benson he basically redshirted, and that's fine because he was raw. But DK, you love Trey Benson in the draft, and I'm curious to see. Oh, but you just did the pull your shirt, so that means you don't like him anymore.
Oh, the
subconscious.
I gotta get out of here.
Out on Trey Benson.
Let's be honest. Trey Benson's rookie season, not what anyone was hoping for.
Out on Trey Benson. Dude, wait,
not what you wanted to see.
Not what you wanted to see.
Okay.
I would say there was a few plays he flashed, but he needs to do a lot better than what he did as a rookie.
All right. Cut him down. Last guy I want to say, I know I'm ranting, but I think people just want names in these sleepers things. This is the grossest and most disgusting name.
Okay.
Miles Sanders. The Dallas Cowboys. This is another one where I just think the market's wrong. I'm not even saying Miles Sanders will be good, but Miles Sanders is not drafted and might just be the starting running back for the Cowboys because there's an assumption by the quote-unquote market that Javonte Williams will be the starter for Dallas. Miles Sanders will be the backup. Jaden Blue, the 5th rounder, is going to be 3rd, and Phil Moffitt, the 7th rounder, is 4th. Phil? So anyway, Jaden Blue, there's a guy who... Jaden Blue is apparently the work ethic is in doubt at this point in time. Fair or not, that is the word going around Dallas. And then if you look at the Dallas Cowboys website, which is not cowboys.com, by the way, which there's a funny story about that. We could do another time, but the cowboys.com.
Where does that go again? Is it like a stripper thing?
Yeah, it was like male strippers or something. It was cowboys.com. Really? Now the domain's dead. Yeah, the Cowboys don't have cowboys.com.
That was like the Wicked thing. You remember that?
Wicked?
Yeah.
Wicked was like a sex toy company or something.
It's available for sale.
They were selling Wicked dolls, and then like the Wicked.com took you to like a sex toy website.
Oh, and then the official Wicked merch went to Wicked.com with the QR code, but that was a porn site. Oh my God, that was bad. It was like kids, brutal. Oh, that's a good one. Email us at ringerfantasyfootballgm.com. Should we do like websites that aren't owned by who you think would own them? That was the thing with Pro Football Focus. They didn't have PFF forever. It went to the Pakistani Football Federation.
Oh, wow.
For like 15 years it took them. They didn't have PFF.com. Email us things like the Wicked.com or Cowboys don't have Cowboys.com.
DallasCowboys.com.
Anyway, the writers at DallasCowboys.com, which I don't always go to the team websites for stuff, but they're sitting there like, who's going to be running back? And they're like, I don't know. Could be anyone. We'll have to see. Like, they're not sitting there saying Javonte Williams. Some people say Miles Sanders, but they're like, we will see. So I think this is a coin flip of whether it's Javonte or Miles Sanders. I think Jaden Blue's out of the running. Phil Moffitt's the 7th round. They're not going to do it. So I'm not saying I believe in Miles Sanders. He sucks. Phil
Maffa?
But yeah. Point being, Miles Sanders just might be the starting running back. He's not being drafted anywhere. He is outside the top 220. Like, he's not being selected. And I kind of think he just might start. So that's gross. But he just started. I don't know. Anyone else, DK, before we...
Well, along the same lines in terms of just like uncertainty in the backfield rotations and doubts whether the starter is any good or not. I'm going to talk about the Bears. Roschon Johnson for the Bears, who is ostensibly the backup to DeAndre Swift right now. DeAndre Swift has had one of the weirdest careers, man. He obviously started out as a second rounder in Detroit, had a chance to catch a game-winning play on his, I think it was his first game or one of his first games.
Week 1.
Dropped it, game over, and he's never been the same again, I don't think. I forgot he was on the Eagles for a year. I just like completely forgot that. So that was a thing.
His LinkedIn profile's tough. You're like, you changed jobs a lot.
We're projecting that DeAndre Swift is going to be the starter, and he probably will be. But the exercise here is like, what if he's not? Then you got to go find these guys that could be diamonds in the rough. And I think Roschon Johnson, big, physical, downhill guy. He's actually pretty good in the passing game as well. And if Ben Johnson turns out to be who we think he is, like he's in that Sean McVay, Liam Cohen, I guess, like category of guys who can absolutely elevate an offense that doesn't seem to be all that talented, or maybe just struggled the previous year. If Ben Johnson really is that guy, this offense for the Bears could be a lot better. I actually saw this. The PFF ranked the Bears their number 4 offensive line in an article from a couple of weeks ago, which I just did not expect to see that. They had Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright, both.
Wait, they ranked
22.
PFF ranked the Bears what number?
4th. Number 4.
That is
which
wrong.
I was surprised to see.
That's wrong. For 2025 or 20 what?
Yeah, for 2025. It might be wrong. Correct. But they like the offseason additions. So basically, Braxton Jones, Darnell Wright at tackle. They traded for Joe Thuney. They signed Drew Dahlman, who ranked really highly at in PFF overall grade. If Jonah Jackson can get back healthy and back to his old form, basically their theory is like, if all these guys come together and play like they've graded them in the past, this will be one of the better offensive lines. I don't know if I buy that, but I just thought it was interesting. And again, this is an exercise in what if these teams aren't exactly what ADP is expecting these players to be. And if DeAndre Swift ends up in the doghouse or just gets hurt, which has happened before in his career, I think Roschon Johnson probably be the next man up. They don't have many other guys. The only addition they made in this offseason was drafting a 7th round rookie. And Roschon Johnson is basically free. If he plays that David Montgomery role as like the big back in that backfield, I just think it's a ton of value with where he's getting drafted.
Do you think it's awkward between Ben Johnson and DeAndre Swift? It's like a curb bit, like him coming back and now like them being reunited again. I mean, literally, Ben Johnson's first year calling plays for the Lions, he had Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. They were like okay at running the ball. The next year, both those guys get shipped out. They bring in David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, and then they're incredible.
Yeah.
And now it's like, hey,
you
Phil?
again.
You again.
Phil? Phil Connors?
I think, DK, you're right. And in a nutshell, either DeAndre Swift is too low or Roschon Johnson's too low.
You should
but
probably just draft them both.
Yeah.
Just draft them.
Totally.
It's hard to imagine Roschon Johnson not having a role and DeAndre Swift being properly ranked or vice versa. So
one of those guys is going to be super underrated. Yeah.
That's really good. We have our updated rankings coming out this week at fantasyfootball.theringer.com, and the whole thing's getting a little facelift. So check that out there. And again, subscribe to us on YouTube, Ringer Fantasy Football. We got some emails right now, but any other guys you want to hit? We want to do some emails.
All I got.
Let's do some emails.
All right. Emails it is. So another thing we're doing, we're relaunching the Ringer Fantasy Football League. So we're getting Bill Simmons, we're getting Mallory Rubin, Sean Fennessy, Chris Ryan. Like we're getting all the people, Cousin Sal. Am I supposed to say these names or are we keeping this?
Well, don't hold us to these, but yeah.
Yeah,
just bleep
most
them, Kai,
likely
just bleep them
all
out.
of those people.
Yeah, just bleep them out, Kai. It's fine. Yeah. But we're trying to figure out the terms of the league, including most importantly the punishment.
Yeah.
So we asked you guys for punishments for the Ringer Fantasy Football League. Thank you so much because so many people sent them in. We're gonna do a mailbag later in August. We're gonna decide what the punishment is.
We're gonna read the best 30 punishments
Yes.
on a mailbag, maybe with Bill on the show, and decide once and for all what is the punishment for this league. And we were asking for appropriate-ish punishments that people with children, that Bill Simmons, that these people would actually do.
Yeah, so it's like Danny Kelly cannot do 24 hours in a Waffle House. He has a son.
I mean, it's less about me and more about how are we going to convince the bosses to do this?
Well, it's like no one's going to do the 30 rack challenge. You know what I mean? Like these guys.
Yeah, exactly. Sean Fennessy is not going to I like to joke like 999. I don't think Sean Fennessy is going to eat 9 hot dogs and drink 9 beers in a baseball game. You know, it's tough, especially now it's pitch clock. It's great. So anyway, we asked for emails within these parameters. It's so easy to read the emails and tell how old people are. It's so easy. But email them at ringerfantasyfootball@gmail.com. I want to read one particularly good one that stood out to me amid all the others that I thought was really funny. This one is from Michael.
Mikey.
Mickey. M-Bone.
Mike writes D-Bone, D-Bone, and C-Bone.
Double D-Bone.
Double D-Bone. That sounds weird.
Double D-Bone. Jeez.
Two Ds.
M-Bone writes, last year, my high school home league of 17 years implemented a punishment for the first time. Last place has to eat 2 cold cans of soup.
Oh, so awful.
So salty.
Mike says, naturally, I came in last.
Naturally.
I took 2 cans of Campbell's chicken and rice to the face. And the growing prospect of having to do this as the season went from bad to worse made this a terrific punishment. And each loss, I spent weeks agonizing over the decision of what soup I should choose. If I would eat it from a bowl, straight from the can, should I chug it from a cup? We also had a weekly weenie punishment where the lowest scorer each week had to chug 2 beers as quickly as possible. Please consider these rules for your league this year.
Isn't the Campbell's just tomato soup one? Doesn't, when it's not warm, doesn't it just kind of come out like it just God, slinks out in like can
like cranberry sauce?
Yeah, exactly. I think 2 cold cans of soup is good, and I think honestly we should get to pick it. Like I think Bill hit Sal with a Subway sandwich like 10 years or 15 years
You
ago.
mean we get to decide the kind of like a broccoli cheddar in a can or something nasty?
Ooh, yeah, like clam chowder. Yeah, I kind of think. Yeah, I don't think.
Do you think they would do that? Maybe they would do that.
You know, yes. You know why? I think it's the grossest thing I can think
one
of.
Can of
reason.
Soup. 2 is too much.
But it's soup. But it's soup. It's like one can. I see why they came to 2 cans.
I will say, Bill famously loves soup.
He does love soup. That's why I think it's so funny.
This is a reward.
He might do this already.
Bill just doesn't heat up the soup. It's like cryo for soup.
What do you guys think is the best soup to drink cold? It's got to be tomato soup because it's basically tomato juice. It's a V8.
It's like a Bloody Mary without the other stuff.
This is why I don't think they should pick.
Soup. I don't want to be chewing. I don't want to chew anything. If I can just drink
chicken soup cold is like fine. I don't think that's
chicken corn chowder. Can you imagine?
A nice cold
I think we should get to
minestrone.
decide. Because you know why? It's gross. It's the perfect mix of gross, but also like, okay, that's food. Like that's
not like
normal
unhealthy.
Food.
Yeah, you're not gonna like shit your pants.
Yeah, it's soup. Like, get over it.
It's a good bad. That's not bad by
shit your pants later.
Yeah. I don't know why, but I like that. Wait, how long have they been doing the soup thing, or was this a recent development?
17 years. And this is why I like it, because you can tell like a bunch of guys in their mid-30s came up with it because they like have kids and stuff now.
Yeah.
So it's like they're all 35 and it's their first year of the punishment. And they came up with that. And that's why it really fits the bill. Because it's like, well, you can't say anything to get out of it. That's what I liked. Like, sorry, I can't eat the soup. Why?
I think it should be like they should have to drink it on whatever podcast they host. It's just an open can sitting on the desk.
Oh my God.
And they have to sip it like it's a mug.
There we go.
Like it's coffee.
Oh my God. That's good. Yeah. So email us at ringerfantasyfootball@gmail.com if you have any other punishment ideas. I would also say everyone just has a different version of you have to host the rewatchables with like a bad movie.
Not happening.
Yeah, I know. I don't think it's happening.
Also, some would say that's already happening every week. Hey-o! Check out Species out tonight. 1995.
Oh,
crazy
Species?
movie. Yeah.
Love that movie.
Wow.
I bet you do, you little freak. I bet you do, you sicko.
You knew exactly what I was talking about, Craig.
Some great clips in that movie.
Immediate reaction.
There's nobody who's like, Species is really a phenomenal film.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
It's memorable having watched it when I was in my early teens or whatever.
It made a lot of money in the 90s when internet porn was not a thing.
That's funny.
Okay. Maybe I'll check it out. I'll check it out for the plot.
Yeah.
Yeah. God.
The other funny one, because like a lot of people were like, do a rewatchables a bad movie. Someone was like, the losers should do the rewatchables and it should be their favorite movie. but they don't get to say anything. They just sit there for 2 hours while they talk about their favorite movie.
That's really
and they can't say anything. That one I thought was creative.
That's
Yeah,
very funny. I will say, I would probably try to move away from programming the rewatchables. It's very difficult to do. And if you have a funny idea, odds are it's not going to happen, but you feel free to take your shot.
It's still fun to talk about.
Chris Ryan's been trying to get Sicario for 5 years on the rewatchables. He can't do it.
Oh, my God.
Send non-rewatchables related punishment ideas. But thank you to everyone who sent them in. They're so funny. Okay. A couple other emails
or
here.
is it species or species?
I say species.
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 Yeah, probably species.
That's like
species.
That's like how people say human instead of human. Like Al Michaels says human.
Yeah.
You know, that's like a real old guy thing.
Yeah. East Coast.
I want to read something about a horse, but you guys kept doing the Phil, the Groundhog Day. So do you want to read an email from? I got an email from Zach here. That's a theory about Groundhog Day.
Sure.
Okay. The
So you
movie
guys
or
can
the yearly holiday?
Well, the movie.
Okay.
So
Zachy.
last episode, Danny, you kept quoting Ned Ryerson from Groundhog Day.
Ned?
Phil? So anyway, Zach sent a very long Reddit post that basically there's a theory that in the movie Ned Ryerson is the devil.
Yeah.
Oh, right. I've seen that. Yeah.
This is we discussed this on the rewatchables. This is one of the better like movie theories that's not actually true, but could be ever.
Could be. Yeah. And basically the idea that he's actually trying to he trapped Phil there because he was mad on the first day, and then he does life insurance and he's trying to buy his soul from Phil. And I think it's great. I think it's a really good theory. That. Yeah. But how to mention that.
Yeah, and it was at the very end of the movie. It's like once he's nice to Ned is when he breaks the cycle and gets out of it.
Okay. Yeah. Placate the devil. That's the theme.
That is the lesson. Yeah.
The devil just wants you to be a good person.
Yeah. So
correct. Biblical scholar.
That's the gist, right? That's okay. We got so many emails. DK said on the last episode that his dog was more athletic than Secretary.
God,
one of the best takes he's ever made.
I think it's the actual hottest take DK's ever said. We got a lot of emails about DK's dog.
People had a problem with that. People had a problem with me saying that George is more athletic than Secretary.
You know, it's just in general, pet arrogance has gone too far in our society, and we need to fucking cool it. Okay. Not everyone's dog is the greatest dog that's ever existed.
Craig, as many of my friends know, I don't think George is the greatest dog of all time.
Just more athletic than
DK's the only, if we're going there, DK's the only person who got a dog in COVID. That was a mistake, and DK kind of admits it.
I'm just saying it's a really terrible mistake to get a dog if you have a baby. Don't do it. Or not a baby. Calvin was 2 or something like that. It's a terrible idea.
Okay.
Don't do it. That's all.
It's honestly really good advice.
George is kind of a maniac. I love him. But he's a maniac.
What about right now? What is Calvin, 5 or 6 years old? Would you do it right now? Would you get a dog now for him?
Yeah.
That's a decent age. 6, 7, 8.
6 is he can handle himself.
Yeah.
For the first 3 years of George's life or 2 years of George's life, they couldn't be alone together because there was a power struggle there. So that just made my life even more annoying.
Power struggle?
You can't leave your dog alone at all.
Yeah, that's tough.
It's tough. He's chilled.
You should have taken him to the track where he could have kicked Secretariat's ass.
If he was if he was running a lot, if we were training him to be a horse race, he probably would be a lot better. He'd be tired more often.
So we got a lot of emails about this, but the one I'm going to read is from Harris.
God,
Harris.
Breakfast was a Costco muffin, banana, and energy drink.
Oof, that's a lot. This guy's ready for anything.
I know, it's wild. That's
Costco muffin.
Banana to undo the cramping.
It's 1,000 calories.
Yeah. It's true. So Harris says, DK completely lost the plot on this discussion and eventually dragged Craig down with him.
I'm just kidding.
The greatest athlete discussion, which is what the question was, whether Secretariat should be considered one of the greatest athletes in American history. The greatest athlete discussion is not talking about who is the most athletic. It is about the most accomplished individual within the context of their sport. When you have overall rankings somewhere, Tom Brady's in the discussion. No one would describe Tom Brady by saying athletic, yet he's one of the greatest athletes. And the discussion to include Secretariat or not because of athletic relative to humans or cheetahs is ridiculous. It's about the dominance in the context of his sport against his quote-unquote peers, who Secretariat beat by 31 lengths. Bringing a cheetah into the discussion is idiotic. While a cheetah may be athletic, it does not use it in the context of cheetah-related competitions.
This guy's fun at parties. You're absolutely right, Harris. I concede that it was ridiculous and I lost the plot, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Also,
true.
I don't think the original emailer specified all of this. You are specifying it for yourself, which I think is fair. But he didn't make these distinctions.
Okay. Well, last email here is good at parties.
We're just moving on.
This was fun. Yeah. Well, no, we're not really. This is
Harris
Silas.
is correct, though. I will concede.
This is Silas.
Silas
is good at
S-bone.
parties. Silas just sent a Wikipedia article.
Okay.
A Wikipedia article to Staff Sergeant Reckless. Wet Reckless, if you will. Just Staff Sergeant Reckless was a decorated war horse.
Staff sergeant?
Staff Sergeant
He
Horse was a staff sergeant.
Promoted several times.
Yes. Oh, it got a Purple Heart. Staff Sergeant Reckless is a decorated war horse who held official rank in the United States military. A Mongolian horse mare. The horse was purchased in Seoul, South Korea in October 1952 for $250 from a Korean stable boy who needed money to buy an artificial leg for his sister.
Christ.
And then Reckless
There's a
was
whole
bought-
movie right
a lot
there.
going on here.
Yeah.
Reckless was bought, there's a lot going on here. Reckless was bought by members of the U.S. Marine Corps and trained to be a pack horse for the recoilless rifle platoon, the anti-tank company, 5th Marine Regiment, 1st Marine Division. And she quickly became part of the unit, was allowed to roam freely through camp, entered Marine barracks and tents, would sleep in their tents on cold nights, and was known for her willingness to eat anything, including scrambled eggs, beer, Coca-Cola, and one time $30 of poker chips.
Oh, twist my arm. Coca-Cola, beer, and eggs. Give me a break.
And then, yeah, it goes on and on. Yes. Staff
That's what I
Sergeant
had for
Reckless.
breakfast.
Yeah, just Staff Sergeant Reckless.
It's an
email,
ideal
eggs,
night.
Coca-Cola, beer. During the battle for Outpost Vegas, in a single day, she made 51 solo trips to resupply multiple frontline units, was wounded in combat twice, and was given the battlefield rank of corporal in 1953,
Damn.
and then promoted to sergeant in 1954. Was also the first
solo
horse in
trips. Like, so this horse is taking it on himself to resupply the platoon.
Herself.
misgendered the horse.
Sorry, herself.
Come on.
Jesus.
Right, mayor.
How dare you?
Boomer.
Okay.
And then the surgeon was his mother.
Horses can be women, DK.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, Staff Sergeant Reckless ended up getting awarded 2 Purple Hearts, a Marine Corps Good Conduct Medal, included in her presidential unit citations, and Life magazine recognized her as one of America's 100 all-time heroes.
Wow. Okay. So wait, what's the point?
It was just a horse. It's athletic.
Well, who was the horse
is up
in
there
War
with
Horse?
Wojtek.
And I feel like
It's
it
like
should have been
Wojtek the
Staff
Bear.
Sergeant Reckless.
Would you say? But
Who was the
greatest-
horse in War Horse? Who's that
Oh,
about?
I don't know. I didn't see it.
Me neither. Looked boring.
Wasn't it like
Seems up her alley.
Honestly, it's a terrible title.
Spielberg
War Horse.
made
Irish
that
War
movie?
Horse?
Yeah,
No,
it's a
this
Spielberg
is
movie.
not. This is a different horse. It's directed and produced by Steven Spielberg. Craig.
Oh
Come
yeah,
on.
That's
I know. I'm
crazy.
aware. Didn't call to me, but who is this horse? And is he better than?
It's set before
it's a
World War
One
I.
horse.
Hmm.
I'm surprised they were using horses in the Korean War.
I know. It's why on amphibious landings they're using horses. I still can't believe cops
Seems-
use horses.
Yeah.
Dude, we're on Bourbon Street for the Super Bowl, and I'm just walking through all this horse shit. I'm like, Bourbon Street for the Super Bowl. They had APCs. They had the National Guard. They had so much security. And I'm like, why do we need the horses shitting everywhere? As if Bourbon Street isn't disgusting enough. Why are there horses shitting everywhere on Bourbon
I
Street?
agree.
Do we really need horses?
Intimidation
No,
factor.
we're holding on to the past there. We need to
Yeah.
get rid of that.
It's just, we don't need the horses. Oh my God. Anyway, I'm not trying to lose the horses. Their
What was
jobs.
the
I know it's
name
tough out there.
of War Horse?
I can't find the horse's name, a war horse.
Is War Horse a hoax? Who is the horse in
Eddie
in
Eddie
War
Redmayne.
Horse?
I don't get him. Let's see here. Not a fan.
What
for
what
this,
does
Eddie.
Eddie Redmayne have to do with anything?
He's in the movie War Horse.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, isn't he the star? of the
I
movie?
don't think so.
Oh, I'm in the Wikipedia. Oh, never mind. It just one line. It had been rumored that Eddie Redmayne had been cast, but I was wrong. No, it's
Joe Craig. The name of the horse is Joey.
Okay.
Joey.
J-Bone. Oh God.
Oh my God.
Maybe the loser of the fantasy league has to watch War Horse.
The loser of the fantasy league has to become a horse guy. or girl.
We got multiple horse guys and girls emailing us about your horse.
I feel like we're going to get a lot of emails about how Warhorse is good.
Yeah, probably. All right, there we go. Email us. Yeah, so email us punishments for the Ringer Fantasy Football League. Email us places that don't own the websites you think they would own, or funny product recalls where they like the Wicked thing. Email us. Yeah, I'll always take horses, or I'll always take animals that were awarded military awards. I think is my
animals
favorite.
That quickly rose up the ranks.
Accomplished
in the
animals.
Animals that made corporals.
highly ranked horses and animals.
Staff sergeant. There are people
He's
who
fucking
did not make
bossing
that rank.
around sergeants.
Oh, well, is anyone listening?
She is, DK.
God damn it! Sorry, you're right.
Come on.
I'm sorry.
Come on. We're gonna get our podcast canceled because you keep misgendering the fucking horse.
It's my bad.
All right. Thank you, DK. Thank you, Craig. Thank you to Staff Sergeant Reckless for your service. Thank you, Kai. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Austin. Thank you, everyone, for emailing us. Thank you to everyone who emailed in the punishments. They're really funny. Thank you, Lord.
Lord.
Thank you, America.
Nice.
A Horse with No Name is a famous song.
You crushed that. That was
That was
great.
great.
You kind
That was
of you
great,
brought
John.
it all together.
That was incredible.
That
That was really funny.
It's a good song.
It's a great song.
Sorry for the whole George thing. I'm sure we got a lot of emails about that. I was kidding. George is not that athletic.
That was really. I bet this guy's
I was
party.
I mean, in an ultimate scheme of things, he's not even remotely the most athletic dog ever.
Right.
He's just probably around average.
Have you seen the meme of someone like it's like a dog on their screen, like the people have the dog show on,
Mhm.
and they're looking at their dog, and you're like, why can't you do that? And the dog grabs the remote and turns on YouTube and puts on the Olympics, and is like, why can't you do that, bitch? Like,
Did you guys ever see the meme thing where it was like two people put their hands in and they have their dog sitting next to them, and then the dog puts the hand on?
I was trying to do that all weekend with my mother-in-law's dog. We spent all weekend trying to do that.
We tried it with George. It didn't work. He just looked at us like we were crazy.
Which
I like the dog
get
that
it.
like attacks the hands. There's one that's just like. Those are the best.
Oh, God.
All right, goodbye, everyone.